If you have ever wondered what Equine Touch is and if it will be beneficial for your horse, then this video is just for you. We will be talking with Babette Littlemore, an Equine Touch practitioner. We'll find out what Equine Touch is, how it can benefit your horse, your relationship with your horse, and what to expect in an Equine Touch session. Let's start by finding out a little more about Babette.
So I'm Babette Littlemore. I've always been a huge horse lover. I got my first horse when I was 14 and he was 9. A lovely bay called Sunny, who's still with me now at the age of 32. It's really some of the physical issues that got me interested in learning more about equine touch. I did some courses, and originally I was only thinking of doing it to help him. And then as I discovered how addictive it was and how much horses loved it, I went on to train to become a practitioner and then subsequently to also be an instructor.
Okay, so how long ago did you start training? Did you do your first training course?
Oh, that must have been 12 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Quite a while.
Yeah. And does it ever stop, or is there like a continuous training?
We do continuous kind of OPD every year. So it's a mix of refreshing and increasing your equine touch knowledge. But as a modality, we also look very strongly at the circle of influence. So always learning more about kind of anatomy, physiology, saddle fit, dentistry, hoof balance, ride balance. It's a long list of things that can influence the horse for better or worse. Yeah.
So the whole holistic approach.
Absolutely.
Okay, so for those of us like me that don't know very much about equine touch, how can it help your horse? So what is it and how can it help your horse?
Absolutely. So equine touch is a bodywork modality and it works on the soft tissue called fascia. And that's the connective tissue. So it wraps around all the muscles, ligaments, joints, bones, organs in the body. And if you have ever looked at a raw chicken breast, it's that thin layer that almost looks like cling film.
Okay.
That sits over the top. And in a healthy horse or human for that matter, fascia should slide really easily across each other, allowing for the full range of movement. But either because of bad posture, injury, kind of wear and tear, little adhesions and abrasions can build up. And that just restricts the body's ability to kind of flow optimally. So equine touch goes in and just helps the body to release some of that constriction and also to get it back into a state of balance and harmony.
Okay.
It's a modality that looks very much at the whole horse, so from nose to tail.
Okay. So what kind of issues can it help with?
So I usually think of equine touch either helping because there is a kind of one particular issue. So it could be a sore back after a poorly fitting saddle, rehab after a specific injury. And it can be really helpful to help kind of reset and get the body feeling really strong and re-energized.
Mm-hmm.
But also I think it can be hugely powerful as a maintenance modality. So I work a lot with horses. For example, if you do dressage, you're just always more likely to overload the hindquarters. Show jumper, who's always got that kind of impact of the front limbs. So even if there's not kind of a big issue, kind of regular equine touch sessions just help the whole horse be able to cope with kind of little niggles as they appear before they become a big problem.
Okay. And which horses should have equine touch? I guess it's a little bit connected to, do you wait until there's an issue that needs some help, or should you just have, if you have a healthy horse, then is it worthwhile just having equine touch anyways?
Yeah, so I would say a lot of people discover equine touch because they've had that horse in their life who they've really struggled to get right. Mm-hmm. So with myself and Sunny, it was very much the case that he had an ongoing sacroiliac sprain. And I'd done the traditional vet coach, I'd done physio, and kind of I saw a few improvements, but nothing that really kind of lasted. And learning, I always kind of joke with my students that when I did have an Equine Touch practitioner out to see him, it's very subtle. And I stood there thinking, oh goodness, there goes kind of like there's another kind of thing that just won't help him. And I was really surprised by the impact that it very obviously had on him the next day.
Okay.
And how long I could see that positive change lasting. So having experienced that and realizing that I could go off and learn the modality myself, that's kind of how I got started.
Okay.
A lot of other practitioners or students, it's because they've had a horse with a difficult issue that Equine Touch has then been able to help. But I would say all horses can benefit. So you have a young horse, you might think actually a young horse perhaps shouldn't have issues. Mm-hmm. But every horse is born with a lack of symmetry, just from how it's lying in the womb, how it kind of holds its legs so it can actually reach the grass kind of to start to feed. So, I mean, there's Equine Touch that's done on foals just to help them. Kind of, it's a lovely kind of way of introducing human touch. Mm-hmm. And there's always that emotional aspect and bonding aspect of the modality, which I love. But also it can just help to kind of allow the body to think, actually, let's stand square, let's be a bit more symmetrical. Let's not start building up all these compensatory patterns that then cause problems later.
Okay. So what would an equine touch session look like? So as an owner, if I had somebody come out to my horse, what should I expect?
So we always start by taking a full history, kind of figuring out what's gone before. Often with Equine Touch, we call it sort of peeling the onion. Mm-hmm. Like the kind of obvious issue that perhaps is the one that's kind of the big arrow that says problem here. Yeah. But it could be actually that has come about because things have happened in the past. And often kind of what's the original problem can be a case of kind of discovering that gradually. Mm-hmm. So we chat with the owner, we introduce ourselves to the horse. We always think it's very important that the horse realizes that we're there to help them. So there's a strong focus on intent and integrity. We make sure the environment is calm and kind of that there's no distractions. And then we start by feeling all the major muscle groups of the horse, feeling down the legs. If there are any areas that the horse isn't happy for us to be in, then we completely respect that. Very much working with the horse's body. And then we would start with what's called the basic body balance. And that's the set sequence of Equine Touch moves that covers all the major muscle groups. And that gives us kind of that initial sense of where the horse is at, what areas are reactive, what areas cause big reactions in the horse. We often look for licking and chewing as a sign of release. And then after that, there's also area of concern procedure moves. So depending on what we've discovered, we might then go and address a particular area, but also making sure not to kind of overload the body as well, because there's a big detox element to Equine Touch.
Okay. So when you're when you're doing that first session where you're kind of doing the initial all-over check, what kind of things are you looking for there, or what might pop out as then needing to be an area that you would go back and focus on?
So it can be everything from muscle kind of texture. Is the area, does it feel restricted? Kind of, are there big muscle twitches? Is it hot or cold? Kind of, you get to an area and suddenly the horse goes, oh, not quite sure. Kind of, is the horse... So we pick up all four legs to kind of feel, is one leg being weighted more than the other? Is there kind of side to side imbalance? Looking at, again, quite often there's a diagonal kind of tendency. So you might discover an issue with the left hind, and that's led the right fore to be overloaded as it's trying to kind of take the strain. Mm-hmm. So thinking about how the body works together. And really just kind of being guided by the horse. If you do a move and the kind of horse immediately looks very kind of glazed, and I kind of call it kind of leaving the room, like they kind of they go in their own zone for a bit. Mm-hmm. We step back, we let them process. And kind of that sort of reaction, I think, is also a big indicator that that's a really important area for the horse.
Okay. So from what you've said, so bearing in mind I've never seen a session or, I had it done to my horse. So I guess I'm trying to kind of frame it with what I know. So it's not physio and it's not a massage. It's something else.
I agree. So it's neither of those things.
Yeah.
But it does work on soft tissue, which both physio and massage does. So the equine touch moves sends a vibration into the fascia as a way of releasing. So we're getting back to that lovely kind of flow through the body. So whereas physio, it's kind of set sort of adjustments and moves over the body, and in massage, it's working deeply into the muscle. Mm-hmm. Equine touch is a kind of very distinctive 3-part move, and it does work particularly on this fascial layer. Okay.
So would you ever use it in conjunction with those other things as well? I guess depending on the case.
Certainly it works really well with chiropractic, horse, acupressure, kind of there's the whole range. If you're doing other soft tissue modalities, you absolutely can. Like, it can all be incorporated. Mm-hmm. I would just then leave a long enough gap that it's not kind of confusing to the body. Sort of, if I send an equine touch vibration into the body, and then someone comes along and does massage, it then kind of just perhaps send slightly confusing signals.
Mm-hmm. Okay, understood. So how do people find practitioners? I mean, are there lots of them around the country?
Yes, so Equine Touch is an international modality. There's practitioners in England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales. They can go to the website, Equine Touch UK, and there's a list of where all the practitioners are. There's also a wonderful kind of annual Equine Touch conference where all the practitioners get together, which is wonderful.
Okay. Yeah, and as you mentioned, you kind of had this done to your horse, and then that kind of set you off on your journey to become a practitioner. So anyone presumably can start to learn this, and I guess there's different levels of say competency, but you may have a different name for.
Yes, so there's essentially some practical hands-on courses, and you can do those either if you just want to learn the modality for your own horse, or if you want to start on the practitioner route. So the first is the foundation level. And if you're just doing it for your own horse, then you can go away and practice and perhaps progress to the intermediate level course. If you want to be a practitioner, then there's theory paper, case studies to complete, a practical assessment. So for each level, there's just more kind of more intensive study. But the actual hands-on learning aspect would be the same, whether you're on the horse owner route or on the practitioner route.
Oh, okay. Because it seems like that would be quite a nice thing for a horse owner to be able to do. And is it something that once you've learned it, you would do it maybe once a week, or you would kind of do it quickly before you saddle up every day? How would you best use that as a horse owner?
A week is lovely. And you the whole body balance. There's a set kind of sequence of moves you can do just across the horse's back, which is really nice to do as a standalone before you tack up to get blood circulation going, or after a strenuous ride, again, just to kind of help that area. Equally, there's an area of moves you can do around the face, which is great before or after dentistry.
Okay.
But on the whole, you would do kind of once a week, once every 10 days or so. Depending on what your horse likes.
Yeah. So I guess you would kind of perhaps use it then as a nice quiet time with your horse, rather than becoming part of your daily routine. It's some time you set aside to do this with your horse. And
yes, and within that kind of Equine Touch, we always say Equine Touch is your gift to your horse, because it's a time when kind of we humans give something back. And the horses love it. I mean, I have 4 horses kind of outside, and if I went out and one of them started to get Equine Touch, they'd be lining up. So I think I'm popping out for 10 minutes, and 2 hours later I'm still there.
Right.
It's just a really lovely kind of bonding thing to do with your equines, as well as having these really profound physical kind of help as well.
So to learn, say as a horse owner, you just want to do this, so it's something you can, like say, give back to your horse. Where would I go for training? Are there particular places, or is it online led? Like, how accessible is it?
It's in person.
Okay.
And there's instructors, again, based all over the UK. Our head instructor, Lynn Palmer, is based in Somerset. But you'll find, so I'm in Oxfordshire. There's instructors further north. So I would say most people are within a couple of hours drive of a workshop venue. Okay,
so it should be quite accessible then. Okay.
Yeah, they're all on the website as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. Because I have, for me personally, I have a horse that can't be ridden anymore. He's retired, and sometimes I'm like, what can I do with him? I kind of feel like I go out and pat him every now and again, check he's all right. So yes, it sounds like that would be something nice to spend time just doing.
Yes, and it's great for older horses because you can help them with all those built up compensatory kind of postural problems that they all develop.
Mm-hmm.
It's great for arthritis. So I mean, my 32-year-old kind of overtracks better now than he did when he was 15.
Okay.
And that's just because his body is in a really strong place.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's nice for an older horse to kind of feel that as a human, you're still wanting to invest time in that relationship. So I love working with the oldies.
Okay. So what is it, do you think, that makes Equine Touch so powerful?
I think it's because it addresses both the physical and the emotional. So for horses, they have this huge inbuilt wish for their bodies to be working really well.
Mm-hmm.
One of the challenges is that as a prey animal, they will try their utmost to not show that something's wrong. So because they would end up as lunch, right? The horse that shows weakness gets picked off by the wolves. And try as I might to tell them that there are no wolves, they don't believe me. So by the time you see a lameness, that's already, I mean, unless it's a sudden injury, but if it's a built-up problem, that could be niggling for weeks. So you can then think, okay, this horse is then also feeling emotionally vulnerable because it's not quite right in its body. So being able to kind of help a horse so that it feels comfortable in its body, particularly kind of also because there's so much that we humans do that can cause issues. So poorly fitting saddle, bridle, rug, like well-intentioned, but just management that doesn't always have the best kind of physical outcomes.
Yeah.
Kind of turn the clock back on some of that. And also it's a way of showing a horse that perhaps has been traumatised in the past, that actually humans can be a good thing. Mm-hmm. One of my favourite Equine Touch clients is a beautiful black Friesian mare called Nellie. And I first met her when she was relatively recently out of a riding school and was just very locked down. Like kind of the first session I worked on her, I could have been working on a wooden horse. Like there was very little reaction in her body. Kind of, it just didn't interact with me at all.
Yeah.
And in the second session, kind of we did a sequence of moves which she obviously found hugely powerful and kind of really sort of led to some big shifts in her body. And it was like this little light came on behind her eyes. Mm-hmm. And her owners reported it was the first time they ever then saw her lie down and roll in the field. The next day, it was the first time that the horse came up to them rather than they having to go over to the horse in the field. And it was just a real kind of turning point in this particular partnership. Mm-hmm. The horse was like, humans kind of can be quite good sometimes.
Right.
And that kind of eureka moment was lovely to see.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you mention, because I guess if you are doing this weekly, then you really get to know your horse's body, so you're more likely to spot, like you say, the subtle things that start to happen that eventually will lead to lameness or stiffness or whatever it happens to be. But as a horse owner, then you give yourself the tools to spot those things much earlier than you would if you were just looking.
And you can spot the improvements as well.
Right.
So kind of if week on week, actually you think that neck that used to be so tight turning to the left, now when I'm doing moves at the poll or around the wither, kind of everything's just flowing more, kind of the horse is just much more relaxed. If to start with, it was a bit like, oh, she's going to my wither. And kind of you see the horse kind of start to relax into him or herself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's some of the things that kind of my students, if they've perhaps never even seen Equine Touch being done, but have come on a course and then go home and do it on their own horse, and they kind of call me up and they're like, Babette, it worked. This horse also kind of shows the relaxation signs and releasing. So it's universal.
Yeah, I really like the aspect that you can learn as a horse owner, so that it kind of gives you it kind of empowers you to help your horse with this technique.
And I think also, then you're kind of with that wider circle of influence, kind of then you'll, as you were saying, you would then spot if there is something, actually I'll get the saddler out, or my horse doesn't usually react if I'm working around the jaw, but today he has, should I get the dentist out? It's just kind of keeping this two-way communication up, which is really nice.
Yeah, that's great. So is there anything else that you would like people watching this video or listening to the podcast to know about Equine Touch?
Well, I think it's interesting to know that there's also a human version.
I was wondering that.
So there's human practitioners, and there's also canine touch for dogs. It was a modality originally started by Jochen and Roddick. And in terms of kind of just perhaps a sense of the Equine Touch family, it's a very kind of supportive modality. We've got kind of great Facebook groups where you can ask questions and nobody kind of says, oh, that's a silly question. Like, everybody's really welcome.
Mm-hmm.
There's a kind of members newsletter, and I think there is a strong, you don't just do some training and then you're left to your own devices.
Mm-hmm.
You're very much encouraged to stay connected with the community. And I think we always kind of just really appreciate that you never stop learning.
Mm-hmm.
There's this strong focus on OPD and conferences and sharing articles and mentoring and things like that.
Yeah, and is that for everyone, whether they're owners that are just doing it for their horse or the practitioners themselves? So support's there for everyone. Okay, well, thank you. I've learned a lot. I'm definitely going to look into doing it for my horse, because I think it would just be a nice thing to do with him, since I can't do anything else with him. And also my arthritic dog, I think, would benefit. So,
love it. Absolutely.
So thank you for talking to me today. And if anybody wants to find out more about Equine Touch, remind me of the website address.
Yes, of course. It's www.equinetouchuk.com.
Perfect. And I will include that in the description as well, so people can easily click through to that. So, yeah, thank you very much for speaking to me today.